Where did Ferrari go? The name should have been Ford versus Shelby or Ford Likes Money. Movie had nothing to do with racing or Ferrari.
What? Did they watch the film?
Name Ferrari was just stuck in the title to dupe suckers to coming into the theaters.
Is this guy a hardcore Ferrari stan?
This guy rolled up and thought, oh yeah, Ferrari has to win this, right?
That's not racing. That's CGI, Saturday morning cartoons.
What?
That was a 1-star review on IMDb. Hello there, and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm your host, Andrew, joined as always by Ryan.
I'm racing into the episode.
Steven.
Got me a nice stopwatch over here.
This week we are discussing the 2019 film Ford v. Ferrari.
Neither of those sounded like stopwatches.
That's like a mechanical pencil.
It's like a skittering beetle. More than
I was going to say, yeah, it's like a metal spider running at you. Yeah. All the gangly legs.
Well, see, that's the sound that I make whenever I'm playing with my cats to let them know that I'm coming. Okay. So then they'll run away from me and
I got you. Okay.
Like
he does
skittering.
You got to know he does this on all fours.
Yeah.
Hopping all out. I'm like a spider monkey.
Yeah. Andrew's cats are always scared. This is why.
They just live in fear.
They just constantly.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man. Okay, yeah, so we're talking about Ford v. Ferrari, starring Christian Bale and Matt Damon. Yep. And
others. There are other people.
There are other people in there, but they're the two main.
They're the two main guys.
Yeah.
They're the ones that matter.
Yeah. So this came out in 2019, and here's a quick synopsis for you if you're unfamiliar.
Hold on, now we got what?
Gut check.
This.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
I loved this movie. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
This is my first time seeing it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I love racing movies. I love sports movies like this, and I love Christian Bale and Matt Damon. I love James Mangold. So like I was,
They did a good job.
Yeah, I loved it.
Go figure. This is also my first time seeing this film. I loved it. This is a great film. I love sports films. I like racing films. I like basically all of these.
How you feel about Matt Damon and Christian Bale?
I like them.
What about James Mangold?
What do you like James Mangold? 310 to Yuma? You like that?
This is probably my fourth time seeing this movie.
Show off.
And I love this movie.
It's very good.
It's honestly really, really good. The music's good. The racing part of it is awesome, and they do a really good job at developing both the characters of Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby.
Carroll Shelby, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is a biopic. There are definitely some historical, not inaccuracies, they're historical liberties that they have taken to kind of amp up some of the tension in the movie. But that pretty much happens in all biopics.
You got to make it fit a 3-act structure sometimes. So
Absolutely,
you take an event that happened back here and you slide it earlier to add
and you
a
move it
little more
around.
tension.
Yeah.
Because real life is boring and it's just all over the place. It's
everybody found out who rushed out to go buy a GoPro. They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have some sick videos. You're like, I don't do anything.
I end up sitting down a lot.
But yeah, so we've already said this was directed by James Mangold, starring Matt Damon, Christian Bale, John Bernthal, Katarina.
Try again.
Balfe?
Catrionia.
Yeah, sorry, that's totally butchered.
Catrionia.
Tracy Letts and Josh Lucas. So the cinematography was done by Fedden Papamichael.
What has he done before?
I have no idea. I'll look it up, or you can look it up.
I'll look it up. Yeah. You keep talking.
But yeah, so the budget for this film was $97.6 million.
Okay.
Box office, just take a guess, because this is a biopic. But it does have Matt Damon and Christian Bale. I'm just curious of what you think, how well this did in the theaters.
We're talking like total?
Yeah.
Total worldwide or just US?
Yeah, worldwide.
Worldwide total, I would say 200 million?
You're actually pretty close. $225.5 million worldwide. So it doubled its money, had a really good showing at the box office. And I think it shows, too, just with the quality of the film and the reception of it. It has basically an 8.5 on IMDb.
Yeah.
People really like this movie, and I think this is probably one of the better biopics that came out definitely within the past decade for sure.
Well, I feel like the fact that it's a biopic may have held it back a little bit from the general audiences.
I think also the name really hurt the film.
I see.
Probably.
I think you have Matt Damon, Christian Bale, right?
Yeah,
two big name stars. That's a big draw.
Yeah,
I think the name just being the brand actually maybe has a little bit of appeal, especially to anybody who has any kind of knowledge of
that era.
That what that is going to be roped in.
Well, so now but that's the thing though. Whenever I because we didn't see this in theaters. We saw it during COVID afterwards. And I remember, someone was like, oh, you really need to try out Ford v Ferrari. I'm like, that's the dumbest name. Like, why did they name it this? Because it feels like a documentary.
It does.
Instead of like on the History Channel, instead of like a film. Like,
I guess.
Like a drama.
Yeah, like it's like Rush, which is the other one that came out around the same time with
Chris Hemsworth and
Ron Howard did the movie for that
can't
one.
think of the other guy's name.
Give me our cinematographer's name again.
Fedon Papa Michael.
Okay, so he did Sideways.
Ooh.
Walk the Line.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
Pursuit of Happiness.
Okay.
310 to Yuma.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Hold on. Wait for it.
Holding?
Wait for
310 to
it.
Yuma is a killer
It's
movie.
coming. Ford v Ferrari, obviously.
Wow, no one saw that one coming.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
It was going so well.
Well, that's not his fault. The movie did look good.
Yeah, actually, honestly, there's not a whole lot of complaints about
The CGI
the
is
cinematography
is not
looks
his
the
good.
problem.
cinematography looked
Yeah.
good.
It's not his realm.
Saw his brain just turning into mush there.
My eye pictured all the CG. Like, "Ah!"
There was a horse.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this did really well in the box office.
Yeah.
But I really do think that the name probably hurt.
What I was trying to say earlier
something more interesting
about it being like it's a drama.
Yeah.
So by default, this isn't Gone in 60 Seconds. This isn't Fast and the Furious. So like the general audiences aren't like, let's go see a racing movie. It's like this is a, historical fiction.
It's
loosely based on.
Yeah, it's
not historical
historical-ish fiction.
It's like Apollo 13 or you know what I mean. It's a drama. It's about
it's dramatized history.
Yeah,
So-
dramatized history. Thank you.
Now, because I am harping a little bit on the name, in other countries besides the U.S.,
It's called Ferrari versus Ford.
no, it was called Le Mans 66.
Ooh, I kind of like that name.
I don't know if that helps it any because
Most
people don't know what Le Mans
yes,
is.
That's kind of, well, you could probably say like Grand Prix 66 or something.
Even then.
Even then, it's
doesn't
still a little
work.
too generic.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I don't think they knew how to name this film.
Not in America, clearly.
As a group of people who have had to come up with a title for something,
It's hard.
it's miserable. It's the worst.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, so I guess clearly it did all right. They played it
and did
fine.
a good job. And the movie itself is honestly very worth watching.
It's wild to me that both Ford and Ferrari were like, yeah, just use our names in the title. That's fine. Go for it.
Well, we're just
No
going to
sweat.
be heavily featured in this, so why not?
Right. I'm actually surprised Ferrari was like, yeah, dude, go for it.
Ferrari's like, you're going to show us in our moment of failure. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, so I realized it's because we got off on a tangent here about the title. I never actually gave the synopsis.
Oh yeah, we did a synopsis.
Oh, yeah,
so here
back
we
to
are.
the synopsis.
So,
Here we are.
American car designer Carroll Shelby and driver Ken Miles battle corporate interference and the laws of physics to build a revolutionary race car for Ford in order to defeat Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. However, there's a little bit of a misnomer because the end goal is to just beat Ferrari, and they kind of like fudged the timeline a little bit, and they like Ford raced Ferrari multiple times before this. They just didn't win.
Right. Well, I mean, they covered that a little bit in the movie. Like,
Yeah,
hit
they
on a
skip a
little
whole
bit.
year.
they did. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They made it out like it was like 1 year we lost, next year we
Yeah,
got
we're coming
'em.
back in. No,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well, I mean,
like
that's what you have with most sports movies.
you basically have to do that. I think.
Yeah, for brevity, because then it feels like you're skipping over too much time, and audiences are like, "What's happening?"
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
But yeah, I think this movie honestly is really, really good. I think it's structured really well, and
I mean, the chemistry between the actors is
fantastic.
off the charts
Oh, yeah.
good.
they do such a good job at building up Christian Bale and Matt Damon's characters.
Is this the first time Christian Bale and Matt Damon have been
Yes.
together in a movie?
Matt
Okay.
Damon took this role so he could work with Christian Bale.
Yeah, because they work together fantastic
They-
on
they
screen. at
fire
least,
back
yeah.
and forth.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, also like between Bale, Ken Miles, and his wife Molly.
Yeah.
whose actress
Oh,
name
yeah.
We're not gonna butcher it again.
Yeah.
But,
Kaito
like, you could tell, hey, like this is a love, right? Like like you can feel that chemistry.
Because
Yeah.
they just have such a good shorthand with each other.
Yeah,
That
Well,
it really
feels like a long term relationship.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it definitely had that, like, especially, well, I don't want to get into specific
Yeah,
scenes.
don't get
but
too specific,
There's a
but-
couple of scenes where you're just like, man, this scene rips. And it's because the two of them are just like nailing it.
Well,
They-
even with him and his kid.
Yeah,
Peter kills it.
Yeah, like every single character in this, even the heels. I'll say like some of the executives for Ford and stuff like that.
Our executives look like a mid 50s, 60s executive who they know what's best.
Yeah,
with the suits,
and they do a really good job at making them be the bad guys, but like I don't know, like. The movie's just really well done.
It is really well done.
Again, this is the type of film where if you didn't have good interactions between your main characters, like that's what all the scenes are. All of these scenes are just can Matt Damon and Christian Bale communicate with each other in an engaging manner.
Yeah.
If they don't, then this isn't a very good film. Like it's just bottom line.
Yeah. Shout out to the kid though, the son.
Yeah, he did a great job.
He did a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, because every scene he's in with someone else, like. It's the way he delivers his lines, the lines he's saying, like just the interactions. It's great.
All the cast, like the guy who plays Phil is like a perfect character.
He's the engineer, right?
Yeah, he's the older manager guy. And then you've got the younger, like the middle-aged kid who works for them. I don't remember his kid.
I can't remember his name.
But all their interactions feel just perfectly realistic. And it's so well done.
John Bernthal as Lee Iacocca. John Bernthal always does really good, but normally I'm used to seeing him as like the Punisher or like on Walking Dead. He's always like this aggressive, and to see him as in this kind of
just kind of like a corporate dude.
I'm a suit, but I'm trying to be the good suit, role was like I thought he did really good. And then of course like Josh Lucas and Tracy Letts as Leo Beebe and Henry Ford II. Both of them like especially Henry Ford II. Like there's a lot more layers to that character than you realize at the front.
Well, because you think that he's just going to be kind of like a blowhard,
like a cartoonish, note, kind of like.
But towards the end, he really has a lot of like nuance to like his rage toward like Ferrari or whatever you want to like do it, and it's really interesting. But then also the corporate greed always catches back with him, and he's like, no, I want them all three to finish at the same time. It's like,
well, and it's interesting too because this era is like. This is the birth of Mad Men. The whole we're all back from the war. Our businesses are established, and now we've learned a new corporate structure and like
buku bucks.
Yeah, we're all making tons of money, and now we've all adopted this similar corporate structure. We got computers are coming into play, and it's...
Well, because they do a good job at also explaining the reason why Ford, even historically, wanted to enter into the Le Mans, because basically Ferrari at this point was building cars as more of like lifestyle. Like kind of like
it's almost art pieces.
Yeah,
I mean, everything being handmade. When like Ford, like the innovation of Ford wasn't we made a car. It's you made a bunch of cars quickly and cheaply.
Yeah,
and then everyone can drive every day to go get groceries. Whereas Ferrari was like.
If you put groceries in this car, it's a shame to this car.
Yeah, exactly.
An affront to my creation.
There's no trunk for a reason.
But the reason why Ford wanted to get into this kind of like realm of having like a sports car is because they wanted to sell it to young kids that are coming from the war and all these
the actual baby boomers, the children born after the war, because we're at that period now where they
this is 64, 66, whatever.
Somewhere in there where it's like, hey, they're all coming of age, they're getting their first job.
Yeah, wouldn't you want them to drive?
They're flush with money, and you know what we want?
They just bought a house for $8,000.
$8,000,
no mortgage,
like $800. Yeah, whatever.
They're ready to buy a car too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's really well shot. The music's good. The acting is great. Like,
and the racing part of it is phenomenal.
It's intense.
Yeah,
and I think too, where this gets a leg up over a lot of other racing movies is it's showing you a race that, at least for the Americans, the concept of the endurance races isn't really something that we see over here a lot.
Yeah.
Here you're going to watch Indy or NASCAR. You're going to tune into Formula One.
No, those are all endurance.
But they're not 24 hours.
It's a different level of like a 4-hour NASCAR race is an endurance race.
Yeah.
This is 6 times that. Like this is a much different beast.
Well, and they're going just as fast, but they're also having to do the same course, the turns and everything like that consistently. And it's not even like NASCAR definitely has a lot of endurance with the machines too, but compared to 24 hours of you running this machine at the peak performance flat out for 24 hours, it's just insane.
Well, and they do a good job, without getting heavy into spoilers or anything, of laying out the like they basically, Matt Damon essentially monologues the challenges in the middle of the movie or kind of early on, I guess, really.
Yeah.
And you see all these challenges play out in the movie and like what the engineering is, what it does to the driver, how they all have to balance all these things. And I think that really helps with making a sequence more intense than it could be. We're just like, they just drive a car in, roughly a circle for 24 hours,
Because the big thing is, and I think a lot of people, you don't really think of it from the perspective of, like, we already know, like, if you just look up the Le Mans 66, we know who wins. We know how it goes down. We know everything like that. So they have to find a way to fabricate a lot of this tension to make it interesting for the viewer that knows all of this information.
Well, and I think their choice of which characters to really stick with and follow makes a lot of sense when you view it through that lens of like, because at the outset, before I watched it, I'd seen I think one trailer in theater, I guess in 2019 when it was about to come out.
Yeah.
And I was like, that looks good. But I never saw it. And then pandemic happened. Time doesn't mean anything anymore. And
it's still 2020. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
but I mean, it looks fantastically period accurate.
Yeah,
it does.
But what I was going to say is that when I just saw that and going into it this time cold, I was thinking there was going to be like 50% Ford story, 50% Ferrari. Yeah. I thought it was going to be, this is what it's like on our side, and then we were going to pop over and see like some of the Ferrari angle of things, and then kind of at the end you get like the overall, kind of like Rush. Yeah, that's kind of like what Rush does. Is it goes back and forth. But yeah, and once you see the poster, it's like obviously we're just following the Ford guys. Yeah, but that was my uninitiated idea going into it. It was like the assumption. So when it started, and I was like, oh, we're just going to follow Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles the whole way through. I reframed and loved it. Like it was like, okay, good. But I think one thing I was going to say too before we move past that is that in the 1 star where they're talking about the CG, there are a couple of scenes in the races where you can tell there's some CG.
You feel like that's blatantly CG.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're just not going to like go crash a car with the driver in it.
Right, but it never, to me, was bad enough to take me out. It was just enough to notice and then keep going.
You're aware of...
Because there's still a lot of practical cars driving.
There definitely is. And there is a lot of... obviously, they didn't have like original Ferraris from 1966
way too valuable
there. Right, that kind of stuff. But they had a lot of, obviously, mock cars that did that looked the part and they looked fantastic.
The styling looks impeccable on these cars.
Man, the Ferraris look so good.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
I mean, now the GT40 also looks incredible.
Crazy
it's a different style look, but I do love Ken's line when they're bringing the cars into the paddock, essentially. And he's just like, well, if it's a beauty pageant, we have already lost.
Yeah.
Do you also desire to leave the Italians in your dust? Well, this Ford right here has the vehicle for you with 100 plus cylinders of previous content on Spoilers Intended.
Forgot his name was Stephen Ford. Makes sense now.
That's right. You can check it all out at spoilersintendedpodcast.com, where we have all of our prior content along with links to things like our Discord, Patreon, and socials.
Yep, you should absolutely check us out on Discord. We have a bunch of fun channels where we talk about what hobbies we're doing, what books we're reading. It could be manga. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm Ryan Ferrari, and I'm here to tell you about our social media. We've got Facebook and Instagram. We would love it if you would follow us over there, like and share all of our posts, and it's a good way to keep up with what we're going to be reviewing next.
All right, we have driven past the spoiler wall. We are on the first turn of the Le Mans. We are here for 24 hours starting right now.
Oh, no, I didn't clear my schedule.
Caution here for spoilers.
No.
No, all right.
No, I didn't either. I didn't bring any water. We're done it for 24 hours.
Yep, sorry, we're locked in now. You can't even go off the recording.
No.
Phil, close the door with a sledge.
We don't.
You're locked in.
We don't have enough card space. I should probably mention this.
All right, yeah.
I've got to live switch the card.
All right, so before we get into, just a lot of other discussion about things, we have some...
Just things. Specific things.
That could work for any episode.
I have some trivia. There's actually not a ton of trivia for this.
I'm a little shocked, actually.
So to prepare for his role, Christian Bale, being Christian Bale, went and took driving lessons at the Bondurant High Performance Driving School. The school's founder has been friends of... That's a link problem. Friends of someone. It's just a bunch of numbers.
Okay.
Oh, something failed there. Okay.
So Bale got to hear stories of the 1960s racing scene. Robert Nagel.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Bale's instructor and the film's stunt coordinator called Bale, hands down, basically the best actor he's ever trained for racing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I tell you, man, I got to get me one of these actor jobs where they're like, hey, here's your roles. Like, cool, I get to learn how to shoot guns and drive a car.
Be like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, you know,
Reeves,
like, come on.
Also, you're going to hire a personal trainer for me to get ripped? Nice.
Yeah, let's go.
So, according to Matt Damon, Christian Bale had to lose 70 pounds before filming.
Because Christian Bale can't do a film without either losing or gaining weight.
Bale had previously gained a lot of weight for his role in Vice in 2018.
Oh, wow,
and had
that
about
was 1 year
7
before.
months to lose it all to play the lean race car driver Ken Miles.
This can't be good on the kidneys.
It's got to be bad for the health, right?
Damon asked Bale how he managed to lose all the weight, and Bale replied that he simply didn't eat.
It's easy. You just don't eat.
Damon said he was
the Oppenheimer answer. I just had an apple.
Yeah, basically Damon said that he was impressed by Bale's monk-like discipline.
I mean, he's of all the people out there that like gain and lose weight, he's got to be in the lead, right?
Dude, absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
he
did we
went
do
from-
like a net weight for how much he's gained and lost?
From
over
the
years?
Machinist to Batman alone, he was like 70, 90 pounds.
And then he's like 250.
He's like 250 ripped doing those push-ups. And I'm like, look at his pecs. So, yeah, I'm sure of all the actors out there that have lost and gained weight, he's probably gone at least the quickest.
Yeah, definitely in the biggest span.
The biggest span.
His body is just like, I don't understand. How much do you want me to weigh?
Because I want to say, just like this, with like the Machinist to Batman Begins was like less than a year, and then from Vice to this was like less than a year.
I bet it's funny too because he's like gaining all this weight for Vice and doing it, and then his manager calls him up and they're like, "Hey, we got a role for you, Ken Miles." He looks up a photo, he's like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
So
could I be Henry Ford Jr. the second?
Last thing, in order to recreate the Le Mans circuit as it existed in the 1960s, the scenes taking place on the racetrack had to be shot in 5 different locations.
Oh, wow.
This proved a challenge in terms of continuity, as not only the cars had to be in the correct places for each shot, they also had to have consistent weather as
Lighting,
well.
yeah.
VFX was critical in fixing a variety of continuity issues, some of which were as simple as adjusting clocks to the right time, but...
Right.
Like even then, like
nothing stood out to me though.
No,
they executed it really well.
It all felt really normal.
Yeah.
I mean,
you couldn't tell they were bouncing around.
Feel.
Well, because I'm assuming is
got the 60s.
Obviously like it's been
1 week since
60 years.
Calm down, man.
It's been 60 years since that Le Mans race happened, and like
almost.
I'm sure there's more than enough development around the actual original racetrack.
Sure.
It looks
or the roads don't even exist anymore. Yeah. So
it's a different town. They just call it Le Mans because that's just tradition. I don't know.
Tourist trap. Got him.
Well, so I mean,
the French are like, you went to the wrong Le Mans, silly American.
Keep walking. The track's up the hill. They just keep going to different villages. I don't understand.
So one of the big things that I've always wanted to do on a bucket list. This is not. I don't necessarily care about going to the Le Mans Grand Prix like racetrack or whatever. But I'd love to go to Monte Carlo to see the Grand Prix at some point.
That'd be awesome.
Just because like it's kind of like when you think of the F1 Grand Prix, it's Monte Carlo.
It's Monte Carlo. Yeah.
Andrew chooses the most boring race possible to go to.
No. What? They're going in between all the roads.
It doesn't matter. So the reason I say that
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. These 200-mile-an-hour performance machines.
So the reason I say that is like we're talking about Le Mans has changed over time, most likely.
Yeah.
Now there's backflips.
Monte Carlo hasn't changed. And the cars have gone from like 8 feet long to 16 feet long.
So they're really slow.
Well, no, it's not that they're slow. It's that there's no passing. So basically, for like the last
no room.
10 years, basically, if you're pole position, you win the race almost every time.
Really?
Because there's
Unless
no
you
one
just mess up.
Yeah, basically the order stays the same.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, it's actually one of these bizarre problems because it's in such it's this road in the middle of a really ritzy area. You can't just be like, knock that building down. It's like, because that's like a $10 million palace.
The track is the track.
Yeah, you can't. Like, let's add another lane to this road. Like, where?
Let's just go back to the old cars.
Yeah, I was going to say what they should do.
Simple answer
is you have like the Le Mans or the Monte Carlo Grand Prix, and you just say you got to learn on these old cars.
You put like Max Verstappen and whatever. You got to drive a car built on 60 years schematics.
Yeah,
exactly.
With modern safety convenience.
Yeah, of course.
But like you got to be a lot smaller. Fit on these
there's a tiny airbag right
there.
Yeah.
So before we get like deep into,
we had the same thought on that one.
So before we get into deep in discussion, there's a couple. Like I'll talk about a couple of the changes that they made for historical timelines.
Okay.
So basically, the biggest change was when Fiat purchased Ferrari.
Okay.
So it actually did happen to where Ford was looking to buy Ferrari.
Yes.
That did actually happen. Now, Ikoka did not go there and negotiate. It was like, I think like one of his underlings or whatever.
Well, it's just weird to be like, you're the head of marketing. Go negotiate this merger deal.
It did feel weird.
Sorry, what?
Yeah.
Well, so they actually did get to tour like the facility that Ferrari had and everything like that. But effectively, Enzo Ferrari was just too much of a nationalist to ever sell anyways.
Yeah.
And that obviously fell through.
Yeah.
But Fiat didn't actually buy them before the Le Mans, like, and all the stuff happened. It actually happened in like 1968.
Okay.
So they basically
they
moved that up to just add in a good bunch of
like a fuel in the fire of like Henry Ford.
So Henry could just be really, really mad about it.
That whole sequence is so well played out.
Oh yeah,
where like with him like sitting there with the papers looking at while the American executives are just sitting off to the side. They have to go back and forth with the translator.
And you can see it getting nighttime outside.
The poor American translator has to translate, like tell him that his executives are all sons of whores.
It's like,
I don't want to translate this.
I get the vibe from what he's saying. I'm picking up on the body language. No need.
And then they have to go back to Henry Ford II. He's like, tell me exactly what he says.
Yeah, that was a good scene too. Yeah.
So
what else? And he looks at Ikoka.
So there was that. Ferrari or Enzo was actually not at the Le Mans 66. And there is no confirmed thing of Carroll Shelby actually stealing the stopwatches from Ferrari.
I don't care.
Right.
So it didn't.
It's a great moment.
The thing is, it didn't add anything to like, oh, it's sabotage Ferrari. It was just hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah, it didn't affect them in any way, really.
It's just more of like a minor annoyance for them.
This is such a typical American sports Buffalo maneuver where you just vaguely harass your opponent for no reason, but because maybe you'll get under their skin.
Yeah.
Right.
Like with the bolt, like the drop bolt and everything else.
But I would assume with both of those instances, with like, Ikoka being there and then Enzo Ferrari not being there, again, they probably just changed it because, like, okay, if you don't have Ikoka go, now you got to introduce a new character.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
that's pointless.
They did have to condense down a lot of the crew that were kind of like instrumental in the development of the GT40.
Well, I'm sure over the years it was probably like 30 or 40 people in and out. It's not going to be the same crew of like 4 or 5 guys that we saw in the movie.
And that is not something that I would even consider like a change.
No.
Because that's just kind of like that is required for the narrative.
Storytelling thing.
Yeah.
Like you can't be like, hey, we're gonna have a 2.5-hour movie and introduce you to 100 people at the start.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So the other two like really big moments that were changed or that are unconfirmed is basically the kind of big moment with Henry Ford whenever he gets in the GT and Carroll drives him around.
Well, probably my favorite scene.
Oh, it's incredible.
Great.
Because it's like, at first he's crying and you think, what a big weenie.
He broke him,
This guy, and then you realize he's just emotional because if my dad knew what we, like, I was like,
how far we've come.
This went from me being like, take that, you suit, dirtbag, to being like, that's really sweet.
It's like a really good moment. So there was that, and then basically the whole initial scene whenever you're introduced to Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby at the same time, whenever he's kind of going at it with the race official. And he's like slamming his...
Dude, that's such a good way to introduce a character, though.
Well, it tells you so much about Ken Miles' character.
Immediately.
Yes.
Well, you learn a lot about both of them.
Yes.
Just in that moment where it's like... Ken has, the hot temper, got to be controlled, and Shelby's, well, let's just talk about this now for a moment, gentlemen. There's got to be some middle ground,
But yeah, those are like the really big changes. There's a couple other ones where like Ikoka didn't actually come and talk to Carroll Shelby cold call. Carroll Shelby actually went to Detroit. I think it was Detroit.
I mean, that's where they're based.
Yeah. He went to Detroit and basically like did a whole pitch to become the race car developer for them. Okay. But I like it better with them.
Better this way,
The other way, Yeah, it feels like it makes more dramatic sense.
That's the thing
sure.
is like there's obviously a lot of amped up tension to like Ken Miles was not like super against like using computers to develop like stuff for the GT40. They used it hand in hand with like traditional techniques of like taping the string to the car, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So like those kind of moments are really just amplified,
dramatized embellishments. Yeah. The other thing that stood out to me was just Ken Miles' death.
No, that is very real.
Well, not how he dies, but it's implied because of the earlier conversations between Phil and Peter that it's a fire.
Oh,
but he didn't die in a fire. He died because the car rolled.
Yes,
and it's actually why like roll cages exist. Essentially, was hey, we don't need to kill another Ken Miles.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I thought it was a fire too.
Well, he emphatically dies like almost like 2 months after.
Right.
After he never gets another shot at another Le Mans. After getting screwed.
So it will end. Real Carroll Shelby, he did express regrets that he kind of didn't really push Ken Miles, but he agreed with Ford and Bebe to basically like have him hold back.
That he even
not
presented
the race.
idea. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like. Because I'm just doing some reading on this, right? So Ken Miles was, I wouldn't say he's a relative unknown before this film, but to the wider populace.
The general populace,
right? If you were a Motorhead racing enthusiast all about Le Mans, you know who this guy is, right?
Yeah.
But for most people, you don't know who he is because technically he didn't win Le Mans.
He didn't win,
And he died like right after, so he didn't have a chance to go back and do it again or whatever. So this movie is kind of a big... moment
kind of
for
spotlight for his person.
Well, just for his what is the word? Not heritage, but like his
legacy.
Legacy. Hey, there we go. Thank you. Jeez, but yeah, for his legacy as how important he is to racing essentially. Yeah. So I like that a lot, honestly.
Yeah, because like I'm the same way that like I was not familiar with Ken Miles, and then like after he doesn't win, I was like, oh, give this man. Surely he wins, and then when he dies, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Josh Lucas as Leo Beebe being the most punchable dude?
Oh man, what
in a long
face.
time that I've seen.
Yeah, he like
every scene
you just.
Dude, so the bit with the Mustang with Peter and Ken.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're outside for the speech, and Shelby introducing each other. Yeah, we've met. And she's like,
yeah. And then when they lock him in his office or whatever, and he takes Henry Ford for the ride, I was like, yeah, lock him in. Because he's just walking with him like, can we talk, Shelby, Carol, or whatever he calls him. Yeah.
So I want to clear the air.
Clear the air.
Peter, what are you doing Saturday?
How about I just take your face and slam it into this desk?
He shuts him in that office. And then way to go for the other kid, too. He like blocks it with his foot. Like, I'm trying.
It's stuck. Yeah. Well, just the casualness of the actual play. The whole scene is played out so well because you're never told what the plan is.
Right.
It's just all he tells Ken is, well, it's high risk,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it starts playing out, and you're like, what is going on? Like, okay, I'm going to go talk to him. He starts closing the blinds. Like,
I thought he was going to punch him at first.
No, like, if we were playing Bernthal as the Punisher or whatever, this is a sequence where you start beating the crap out of somebody, right? So he's closing the blinds. He just casually like, okay, we're talking. I just close the door and lock it and walk away. And the dude's like, what the?
Yeah.
But like that, and then like the other kid going like start the engine and turn the radio on, just kind of drown him out.
Yep.
It's so well played.
It's honestly probably one of the. It's so weird because there's like 3 or 4 different emotional climaxes in this film.
There are so many good sequences in this film.
So keep going.
Go ahead.
But I want to make sure that we don't forget to talk about Molly and Ken Miles and their relationship.
It's phenomenal.
Everything from the moment you're introduced to her.
Yeah. She is ride or die. And like,
right?
Man.
But then you have the moment whenever she's driving.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, hey, you should probably slow down.
And she just kicks it in. She's like, you like to go fast? He's like, not like this.
Well, I love the super casual way that scene starts with the groceries. He just kind of reaches his hand back, get the chips.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have a chip or 3,
Yeah. And then, again, the scene with... him and Carol when they're fighting.
Yeah, dude, that's another like good like I'll say watershed moment for the characters that happens a lot earlier on than I remember it happening after watching the first time. And I was like, oh yeah, this happens now.
Dude,
Right.
that scene, the way it's played with them, wrestling and fighting, and she comes out and puts the lawn chair down and just sits down, like, I guess I'll just watch.
Yeah, like, I guess I'll monitor.
Completely ruined the groceries, and she's just like...
She's like, where are you going?
What?
To get groceries.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, can I get a fizz? And Carol's like, can I get one too? Don't give him one.
Yeah, don't give him one. And then the scene with Ken and his son, a couple of them. One,
Oh man, there's so many good ones
the
with him.
kid has drawn out the map.
The map, yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a good scene. And then when Ken catches on fire, the scene with the kid and what's his name?
Phil.
Phil.
Oh yeah, this
Where
is
he's
the
like
first time when
talking about how the
first
suits
time.
work. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like
such
just-
and such burned up. He's like, it's because he couldn't get out, kid. As long as you can walk away from it.
Right. Yeah. And it was like, it makes you understand the danger. And it does a really good job of foreshadowing that he is going to pass away at the end of the film without spoiling it. Like, at no point was I like, oh, dude's toast.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, this is setting up the tension, you know?
Well, I think honestly my favorite scene with them though is whenever he's kind of like teaching him how to drive on the runway, and then they stop and then they just lay out and look at the stars. I'm like, man, this is just
There's some really good sequences in this film.
When he's telling him about like, this mark is my mark to slow down before I go over here, like, oh man, like a lot of really good scenes with him and the kid.
So we're talking about good scenes. What's your favorite scene? Put you on the spot. You got to make a choice here.
It's the Henry Ford in the car. Like, that's great. Like the way the whole setup of locking BB in the office, getting Henry Ford in the car, because that
get
to
him
me is
along with
like
Carol.
In a heist movie, this would be the crux. This is the like we've got to turn this corner or nothing's gonna work. We have to convince him to let me do Ken Miles as our racer, and then him doing the thing and him crying at the end. That whole sequence from start to end right there is just fantastic.
So my favorite has to be when basically, obviously Bebe is trying to lock Ken Miles out of being the driver for the Le Mans, and they go to Daytona.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, everything is stacking against them to stop him from doing it. And then Carroll Shelby just gets so fed up with it. And he's like, go over 7,000. I'm like, yeah.
No, it says, is it over 7,000 and run like hell or something like that?
something
I
like
can't remember what
that.
it says, but he like pulls that thing up and you're like,
I love that scene.
I can't remember what Christian Bell says right after that, but he's like, all right. And he
go, girl,
slams
or
it, and I'm like, yes.
What about you, Steven?
Oh, it's hard. There are so many good moments in this film.
Well, even just like there's some really great moments just in the actual Le Mans race that aren't even like the climax of it. It's just like when he's passing things or like Christian Bale just does a phenomenal job at keeping you engaged with what he's doing and thinking because he's just that character that
he's expressive
talks to himself.
and he talks. Yeah. So I think for me, what I like are double scenes of rules lawyering. Well, the trunk has to fit. Oh, okay. It has to fit your little portmanteau. Okay. Well, all right, well, you just bam. That, and then also when they replace the brakes and the official comes yelling.
So that actually did happen.
I know. And he's like, "We read your rule." But like Ken starts getting his face. No. Ken, you.
I got this.
And then Shelby goes, "We read your rule book."
So that was actually kind of one of those moments in racing that really changed the game on how pit crews managed their cars, just because they're like, oh, we just remove the whole assembly and we put it back on with a whole new assembly instead of having to worry about brake pads and all this other kind of stuff. It takes too long to replace. And now the Ferrari team apparently didn't care, but it was the French officials definitely cared, and they were like, whoa, wait a second, what are you guys doing? They're like, no, that's in the rules. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
Well, also, I love when they first discussing, can we do it? And you're like, I don't know, I can't read French. He tosses the rule book down. I mean, there's so much about, and this is, again, for it being Ford versus Ferrari, right? We already mentioned you don't really see a whole lot from the Italian side, right?
Yeah.
Not a ton.
This is a very American film.
Oh, absolutely.
It is.
A lot.
Very American propaganda.
Well, and again, not only that, just
well,
like I think
propaganda. Hold on now. Ford did win these Le Mans. Now,
They did,
there's no propaganda with that, but
it does. It does.
the American spirit.
The American spirit, yes.
Competitive spirit.
It does serve the story better, though, I think, than what I thought going in, where it was going to bounce
be a
back
half
and
and half,
forth.
yeah.
Because, like, how could you have, like, also, was there a a comparable story on the other side,
Probably
there may
not.
not have been. You know what I mean?
Ferrari
that's the thing,
just
Ferrari-
business as usual, you know.
Right,
Yeah, because
yeah.
Ferrari was already the winners every year.
Right.
Yeah, what else was there to do or whatever?
Yeah,
you know?
like they're already top of the game. Why would there's probably no real compelling story for the racers unless
Yeah.
Ken Miles and one of the Ferrari racers actually had some kind of conflict.
Or if that racer had like a very interesting story. But every second you take away from Ken Miles in this movie is a travesty because like his story with his kid, with his wife,
all
with
these
Shelby
interactions.
is great.
Yeah.
And like it I'll lose my track. I had it and I lost it.
no.
So while you try and get it back,
No, never.
So I really like something that we haven't even talked about yet was the music for this film is
Oh, it's
honestly
really
phenomenal.
good.
It's so
Yeah.
Like it's one fantastic driving music, go figure. But the
Never, no.
it has such a good job of like building tension without it being like overly like just being overbearing to what the scene is.
Well, and the few like soundtrack songs that they picked that weren't like score, that was like the
Yeah.
actual song, were like very perfectly matched and also not something you hear in every freaking song, like every movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, here we go. I've heard this in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Here's
and like two
Fortunate
other-
Son.
Right. Yeah. They didn't make no sense.
Yeah, well, it's a little too early for that.
But like, yeah, like it didn't feel out of place.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of movies, the music selection, when you bring in like a pop culture song or something, it's make or break. It's either going to feel out of place or
it's
feel
gonna feel-
forced.
yeah.
And I thought everything was really good music wise.
Well, and they drop in the one song too when Ken doesn't get to go to the first Le Mans and he's working in the garage by
Oh, yeah.
himself, and Molly comes by, and she changes the radio off the race to whatever song it is,
Another great scene.
right? And she pops open the bottles and she's like, "Well, it's not champagne, because that's the drink of champions, right?"
Yeah.
And then they dance or whatever. It's like, man, this is such a good relationship.
Yeah.
So the bit I was going to mention was it's really cool to watch this film too, and you see like all these names keep coming up, right? I mean, you have Carroll Shelby,
Yeah.
right? Which is, if you pay any attention to cars, you know who that
You
is.
know who that is.
Every kid in my middle school probably had a poster of like from the Scholastic Book Fair of a Shelby Cobra on their wall at some point.
Oh, sure.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
It's a really sexy car.
It's a great
is.
car.
It is
Yeah.
a really cool looking car. But like you've got Shelby, you've got people running around. I mean, you got Enzo Ferrari, Henry Ford II, Lee Iacocca. You've got McLaren gets name dropped in there,
Yeah.
right? Like all these names that in racing and just cars have come up so much, and it's so cool just to see this because you have this period piece that lets you put all these people in the same place because
the
they were
same,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like having, again, it reminds me a little bit like Apollo 13 or like, one of those
Yeah.
where you have all these people you've heard about, but now you're seeing them on screen.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really because there are definitely other Le Mans based film or centric films that have come out over the years, and like some of them are probably better than this film just because they're more dramatized and it's more of just like a character. But this is also a character drama. The name still just bothers me so much because it's so generic.
But also,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, when you tell this story, like the confluence of events that have to happen, the people who have to come together, like the actual moment of Ford trying to buy Ferrari and
Yeah.
Ferrari, turning them down and pissing Ford off. And
Yeah.
this is basically, hey, all right, fine, we won't throw the gauntlet down. We'll throw the gauntlet down. You build race cars, we can build race cars. You know, like you have to have all these things come together.
Yeah, speaking of, I actually really liked Henry Ford's the second's little speech inside of the production line.
The factory
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All you walk home today.
and ruminate.
Yeah, like there's so many like good moments in this film that like every other one that comes after it kind of overshadows the last one.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
but
because
in
like,
a good way.
I forget about them and then you bring it up like, oh, yeah, there was that scene. And then,
And it's kind of like we talk about how, for some films and some TV shows, right, it's a little bit of a roller coaster, high and low, high and low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't a roller coaster, launch track where you're just always going up, but it never really feels like we go down.
Yeah.
No, it's like high, really high, really high.
Like high plateau, high plateau, high plateau. But throughout it all, like we don't just have like drama and tension and action.
Well, and you don't
There's-
have like fabricated drama.
No, it's not forced.
Yeah.
But
Not
there's
really.
also speaking of forced, there's also a lot of really just great humorous moments that aren't forced, like the bit with the stopwatches when like he
fighting with the groceries.
Yeah, but like he takes the stopwatches and the Ferrari team freaks out, and then Phil's like, "It's nice watch together." It's like, "Yeah, you want one?"
It's Italian. Yeah.
It's Italian.
Well, and then like when the kid answers the phone, and then the second time, "Don't you touch that phone!" There's a lot of little stuff like that. That's just I like, especially in movies like this, like a drama, when they do really good subtle humor, and it feels
to
clever.
build it in.
It feels realistic,
Right.
Yeah.
Because there are some movies where like they tonally the shift is too much and you try to go a little too funny and then back serious.
Or
and
it's
like,
just
slapstick,
or it's just
shucks
always
or
way
something.
too serious, and there's never any room.
There's no
for
levity at all, ever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just that's not how people exist,
Yeah, and I think the scene whenever you're introduced to Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby at the same time, where he's obviously going at it with the race official, like that. It's funny, but it's such a good character building moment for obviously both characters.
It really.
I know we said that. I already said that, but
yeah,
like,
but it doesn't matter. It bears repeating. Like all these pieces, they don't just exist to exist.
Yeah.
They inform something about the character or the character's relationship with another character,
Yeah.
or they foreshadow something that's coming up. Like they all build into each other
into
so
something,
well.
into the greater picture.
Yeah.
Well, it does a fantastic job of show don't tell, where like you could have just had Carroll Shelby just talking to someone, and they look over at Ken Miles like, "Oh, be careful, he's kind of a hothead," and just like really crappy exposition like that, or you just show Ken Miles like trying to be very cordial and then not,
Right?
Because this race official is just trying to just be a race official, I guess.
And just well, I love the line that he hands him when Ken's like, "Oh yeah, and I'm sure that when you were growing up, you said I just want to be one of these such and such as at the racetrack who just ruins everything."
Yeah.
Oh man. So okay, as we're kind of wrapping up here,
Yeah.
Because we could go on for a long time.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Like if you haven't seen it, you definitely should.
Yeah.
It's honestly fantastic.
I would recommend it for almost anybody.
Yeah, recommend rewatch.
Yeah, I mean, if you have any level of attention span for any kind of character drama, you should be in.
And you like racing.
If you like racing, you should be in.
Yeah.
If you like good,
If you like Matt Damon and Christian Bale.
if you're a fan of Matt Damon and Christian
Yeah,
Bale,
get
and you
in here.
haven't seen this, you need to see it because this is some really good work from both of them.
Yeah.
If you like James Mangold, boom,
Get
in
in there.
here, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And yeah, I would absolutely rewatch it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I have rewatched it. I will rewatch it again. All right. So that does sound like we're wrapping up. But before we go, we always have to talk about our Patreon. For just $1, you get access to all of our bonus content.
That's right. My last name may be Ford, but
There
I'm
we
not
go.
sitting over here like some money bags. Blank check. So if you want to support the show, just $1 a month gets you access to all of our bonus episodes.
All of our bonus content.
Content is the right way to
Yeah,
phrase
we got
it.
bonus episodes ranging from we ranked chips, we did tier lists on Halloween candies.
We should rank cars.
Ooh, like
Like
that would
pull
be a
up some
good
I would
car
totally
images.
rank some
Yeah.
cars.
Put that one on the list. Yeah,
like
we
that.
fought monarchs. We have.
Oh, we could pull up images of cars. Can you fight this car?
You fight this car.
Scar.
Yeah, but there's a lot of fun content. It's only $1 a month, and it's the easiest way to support the show. We appreciate all of our patrons.
They're beautiful, lovely, wonderful, talented individuals.
Yeah.
Beautiful people.
Gorgeous, even.
Only the finest. You want to join the finest? It's just $1.
Yeah.
All right, so that does sound like all the time we have. So you should follow us on social, leave us a review wherever you're listening right now, and toss us a like.
Share us with a friend.
Share us with a friend.
Yeah.
We'd really appreciate it. So until next time, I'm Andrew,
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Steven.
and every spoiler was intended.